Welcome back guys, Mel here from Mel's Motors. So I've got Vauxhall Zafira here. We're part way into this video, so it's not exactly from the beginning. It's a gearbox job, noisy gearbox, 6-speed gearbox on a Vauxhall. Any of you guys out there know about the 6-speed gearbox on Vauxhalls. They're notorious for the rear bearings collapsing or causing issues, making them really noisy. If not addressed quick enough, they can damage the back casing, which means that the workload and the pricing increases on these jobs. This particular one has had the modified rear casing on there with the slightly bigger bearings. The earlier ones were notorious for this failure, where the bearings at the back of the gearbox, so opposite where the clutch and the flywheel would be. The bearings were made too small. They were made smaller than the front ones. There was an upgrade you could do on those where you'd buy a bigger casing, bigger bearings, trying to alleviate the problem, but the problem hasn't gone away. It's a Vauxhall, so it's still there. The gearboxes themselves are okay, but they have this notorious problem with these bearings. So we're part way through, we've got the gears out, so the video is going to start from where we're going to do the bearing replacement. Okay, so you can see inside the gearbox. The reason it looks that way is because we've got the rest of it out. This particular gearbox, it comes out as a complete cartridge. You just drop the subframe a little bit, you can unbolt it and get it out. The video for today is bearing change. Those of you who know about these M32 gearboxes, you know, they're notorious for bearing failure, especially at the back. This is Gen 2, which has got the bigger bearings at the back. The Gen 1 version used to have smaller bearings, which used to overload and cook, and then used to collapse. And if you didn't get on top of it quick enough, you'd destroy this casing, and then it'll cost you a fortune to repair. Usually, you'd destroy the entire gearbox. So I'm over at my hydraulic press. Instead of setting the entire tool up and winding stuff in, it's going to make life easier for myself. Use this tool, press it out. Top bearing off. This one's got a screw on the top, so we'll take the screw off and then we'll see how we're going to get that bearing off, because I don't think that's going to get under there. Right, I can't get these tools on low enough to grab the bottom of these bearings, so I'm going to take the roller bits off so we expose them. I've got my welder set up, so we're going to weld a ring all the way around. Not only will the heat expand it, but we'll have something to put the tool on and press it off or pull it out on the press. Okay, all the bearings are fitted, top and bottom. See that one there. I mean, these are the hardest ones. Most gearboxes will have that bearing on the other side, where you don't have to go through this rigmarole of removing every single gear off the shaft. Believe it or not, this was the easy bit. I feel so fit now, running backwards and forwards to the press. These are the hardest bits to fit now, because that's buried up there, this end, and then we've got the back of the case to contend with as well. This particular gearbox, where it uses tapered bearings front and back, when the case goes on and squashes the gearbox, you can over tighten them because there's no ball bearings in there to take up that free play. So at the bottom of these seats there's shims. Now, because I've used the same SNR bearings, I'm hoping I don't have to shim it up, because to shim these up is hours work. We will have to remove the entire gearbox, get it on the bench. We have a special spacer kit we use where we space this back cover off the front cover, and then we have to stick measuring tools in here to measure the distance from the back to the bearings, and then we get the adjustments figures we need to shim these up. So it's not a new car, well, it's 10 years old, and I'm going to take the gamble, pull these out, put the same shims back in. Okay, we're going to start removing the bottom shell of the bearings, the one already out. We can use a blind hole puller, which is one of these tools. There's a pin that goes in there. As you screw it in, it expands. There's one already fitted down here. And then what we do is we put a slide hammer on it. And slide hammer it out. This is the one we already got out. This is the bottom half of the bearing. And this is the spacer that I spoke about that sits at the bottom of the bearings. Now, I'm confident enough I don't have to change these, because these are SNR bearings. We've bought the same SNR bearings with the same part numbers, so in theory they should be manufactured the same. So we're just going to put them back with these spacers. Okay, all the bearing ends are out. The shims have stayed in place so they don't get mixed up. I've left the bearing shells in place so they can correspond to the ones that match from the other gears. Okay, so now we've got to get these bits out. These are going to be the hard bits, because these bearings don't have any lips on them, so I can't use my I'm trying to reach and hover over the light. So there's no lip on here on either of these to pull them off, and I've got a seal in there which I don't want to damage because I don't want to take the gearbox out. The great thing with this one is we have a groove on the top, which means I can get my plasma cutter and plasma cutter groove into that, which means that'll pop straight out, but the others don't have any of those. Let's get a bit closer so you can see. So you can just see at the top there, there's a space there, so we can get a plasma cutter and blow through, so we cut through this, and then these ones, I'll have to think of something. Right, I've cut the bearing shell there, use a disc cutter instead of the plasma cutter, it's a lot less mess. So that one's ready to come out, just got to I'll do some of the others. Okay, the rest of the bearing bits are out. I just used a disc cutter, actually might use the big one for the one at the top, and then I use my little air one to cut a notch into these in situ. They're out, so we're going to bang the new ones in. We're just going to get some brake cleaner, clean in there, and just drain it out the bottom so we get some of the swarf out. Okay, all the bearing halves are in now. The gearbox has all been cleaned out, so it's time to get these gears back in. It's going to be a bit tight to video that, so we'll come back after they've been put in. Well, it's all back together and running. Just going to go in for a road test. So these were all the bearings we replaced. As you can see, it's a hell of a mess trying to get them out. This was the main one that was damaged. I don't know if you can just about see the pitting all across there. This was making the rumbling noise. These big ones, to get these out, I used my air disc cutter. I took the shroud off it, and it was just the right size to get into there. Put a groove in it, punch it out. I couldn't get my blind hole puller in there because there was no lip on the edge for me to grab from, so if I couldn't get that disc cutter in there, I would have welded an edge to it, and we were going to weld a bar across it and then slide hammer it with the bar. So that's another option if you get stuck. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Now this video is not a tutorial. These videos are for interest only. If you guys want to use my videos to do some of this challenging work, it's entirely up to you. But this particular job is not for your home mechanics. Now, it may have looked simple-ish. It's a cartridge that comes out, then I have to take the gearbox out. Now, I've used the exact same bearings that came out of this. Same make, same bearing numbers. Now, all bearings will have a number on there, and every manufacturer that makes a bearing will use the same number, but they're not exactly the same bearings. Now, if I was using a different brand of bearings on this, now there are shims in the back of this gearbox. Now, unless you know there's shims in there, you will just put a bearing in there, clamp it up. Now, when you clamp these up, because there's a clutch and a flywheel in the way and the gearbox is still bolted in, you can't twist the input shaft to see how stiff or jammed these gears are. So, because we've used the exact same gearbox, I'm hoping that this has gone smoothly. We haven't had any issues with it. Now, you can spin the wheels, see if the diff's stiff. It's not the best indication, but normally when these gearboxes come out and they've done a lot more damage, or I replaced the rear cases on them, you have to re-shim these. And to shim these gearboxes, it can only be done on a bench. So you have the face facing down, you have to use special bars that have a predefined length to them. There'll be 3 bars with space plates and top space plates, and you'll put the back casing onto a fully built gearbox. You've got to hold that down onto the gearbox, and then you measure the gap in between the gearbox case that you've held up. Knowing what the difference of these spacer bars are and the gap, then you know what shim packs to use. Now, we're not measuring in millimeters here, we're not even measuring tenths of millimeters. It's 0.05 of a millimeter. This is the size of the shims that come in. So I'll show you in a minute what it looks like, but if you're going to have a go at this by watching my videos, it may go horribly wrong. So we're in Parts Link here. I've got the chassis number there of the vehicle that we're doing the work on. This is exploded diagram of some of the gears. Now down here we've got number 25, which is the shims. So I've clicked on 25 here, and if we go over to the side, you can see there's lots of 25s. And if we go right in the corner of the 25s, you can see the shims start at 0.80 and they go up in 0.05 increments all the way down. So if it's too tight, you can be taking that gearbox back out again. So this isn't a job for the home mechanic, it's a job for a skilled mechanic. So I've logged into all data, I've got the vehicle specifics up there. Now this will go through the tools that I need for our gearbox. Now our gearbox is M32, as you can see up here it says all F gearboxes, but if you come down to the tooling, you can see that this particular tool is for an M32. So if I scroll down, you see M32, M32, so these are specific to our gearbox. This particular tool is for an F series. But this kit here is the one I was talking about. This is for the M32 gearbox, and we need this specific tool to determine the shim sizes. It can take you half a day or more just to do the shimmings on the back of these gearboxes. Absolutely awful design, and there are other gearboxes a lot simpler than that, but they've chose this design. And if they just used ball bearings instead of tapered bearings, you wouldn't have needed all this kit to do the job. If I keep scrolling, you can see there's a plethora of tools here that you need to do most of these jobs. Obviously we don't use all of these tools, we have variations on these, and you know, we'll either use or make tools ourselves to do the jobs. I mean, this particular one down here is for F17 and M32 gearbox. So these are crossover tools for some instances. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, please hit the like button, the subscribe button and the bell notification so you're notified the next time I upload another video.